Look at Riverside Park. We see a visually thriving ecological network, complete with winding rivers and wide open meadows. This data table displays a comprehensive biodiversity survey, comparing this local network against a broader regional baseline. On the surface, the metrics are robust. The park holds hundreds of individual species, notably a count of 194 distinct floral species. A baseline assumption in ecology is that a healthy, resilient ecosystem distributes its diversity relatively evenly across taxonomic orders. But revealing the percentage comparisons between the local network and the wider survey area exposes a hidden volatility in the data. Despite the varied physical terrain, only 5 species groups are well represented across the entire survey area. What we are looking at is a high-volume, low-variety ecosystem. There is an abundance of life, but a strict limitation on its diversity. These statistical anomalies are not random. They function as an eco-historical map. By systematically deconstructing these exact data rows, we can identify the specific historical land uses and physical constraints that shaped this landscape. Raw biodiversity numbers lack meaning until we analyze the environmental filters that suppress or elevate individual species. This section of the chart isolates the angiosperms to examine the exact flora distribution across the park. Trees and shrubs represent nearly 3/4 of all regional species found within this specific local network. We can trace this high variety directly to the area's protected parkland heritage, a management style that intentionally preserved mature growth. Yet in the adjacent data, we see a significant underrepresentation of grass diversity. Only 23 out of 45 regional species are present here. Given the sheer volume of open grassland and the 1,094 total floral species recorded earlier, this lack of grass diversity is unexpected. The suppression of grass variety points to a specific historical culprit: legacy livestock grazing. Heavy grazing acts as an ecological filter. Livestock consume or trample delicate species, leaving only the most robust, aggressive plants to survive. This historical pressure created the modern high-volume, low-variety reality seen today in locations like Sid Meadow. The specific outcome is visible in massive, unbroken swaths of a single dominant species, like wild carrot, or dense fields of meadow buttercup. The flora data reveals how historical land management creates lasting shifts in local biodiversity, persisting long after the practices have ceased. Moving down to the arthropod section, we shift our analysis from historical impact to current physical constraints. The Hymenoptera order, bees, wasps, and ants, shows strong success at 57.1%, serving as a baseline for healthy insect activity. This success links directly back to the vast flower-dense grasslands of Sid Meadow. Contrast this with the Odonata. Only 4 species of dragons and damsels were recorded. This is a glaring geographical contradiction, because the entire ecological network is anchored by a continuous, prominent river. The absence comes down to a specific biological breeding requirement that is strictly incompatible with this environment. Dragons and damsels require standing or highly sluggish water to breed successfully. The localized physical reality of the Riverside Park River is fast-moving and churning, making it a hostile breeding ground. Physical water velocity acts as a rigid habitat filter, completely overriding the overall greenness and scale of the surrounding parkland. Topological diversity does not guarantee biological diversity if one specific microenvironmental condition blocks a species' reproductive cycle. Transitioning to the top of the food chain, we isolate the tetrapods rows to analyze the largest creatures in the network. The mammal count is low. Surveyors observed only 3 species during the entire assessment. Here we encounter a critical rule of ecological surveying. The absence of an observation does not confirm the absence of the species. The mammal data is skewed by an observational bias driven by basic behavioral traits. Many mammals are highly nervous around humans and strictly nocturnal. This renders them invisible to surveyors conducting standard afternoon assessments. When we shift from passive observational bias to active environmental disruption, the bird data presents a concrete physical problem. While common woodland birds are prevalent, waterside bird species are restricted. The direct cause of this restriction is heavy, continuous human foot traffic in specific zones. Active disruption from off-leash dogs along the riverbanks in the Baez area creates a continuous zone of exclusion for nesting waterfowl. The largest gaps in the local biodiversity data are driven by behavioral avoidance and human-induced stress, rather than habitat failure. Zooming back out to the full survey table, we can understand the complex forces hidden within the raw percentages. We can categorize the exact forces shaping this ecosystem: historical land use dictating the grasses, physical constraints blocking the insects, and active disturbance suppressing the tetrapods. A diverse landscape does not foster diverse biology without careful management of these three specific filters. Despite these suppressions, Riverside Park maintains immense foundational ecological value. This high-volume, low-variety dynamic is a characteristic symptom of an ecosystem still carrying the signature of its previous land use. The perspective now shifts toward the variables that conservationists can actually control. While physical traits like river speed are fixed, historical pressures and human disturbances are entirely manageable. Targeted interventions, like altering mowing schedules or restricting dog access in key zones, can allow suppressed species to return. The specific targets for restoration are visible in the missing percentages of the survey data. Reading data as a diagnostic map rather than a final grade provides the specific information needed to steer habitats past their historical constraints toward true ecological balance.